KF5HEL here with a video on my FLEX-6400 radio running dogparkSDR on my Mac Mini. For reference, I'm putting up the About windows for the various pieces of software I'm running in case you want to follow along. In this video I want to talk about profiles, and I have talked about profiles in another video, but I want to touch on them a bit deeper. Profiles, of course, for Flex radio enthusiasts are a package of settings with a name that is tied to your radio. These settings go from anywhere from, let's say, your VFO frequency to your mode to the power you're putting out. All those settings for your radio that you want to operate on for a particular scenario are stored in a profile. I want to point you to this document here. It's the SmartSDR Software User Guide. It's about 3 years old, almost 3 years old at this point, but it has some good information on a lot of things about how SmartSDR works, and of course I'm using dogparkSDR, which is a different software client, but a lot of this is applicable. But I want to specifically go down here to this page 60, and encourage you, if you are new to Flex Radio and dogparkSDR and want to understand profiles a bit better, reading this page here, chapter 18, pages 60 and 61 and 62, give you an idea of what global profiles, mic profiles, and transmit profiles are. If you go to the excuse me, to the next page here, I think it's around here. Yes, Chapter 9, Importing and Exporting Radio Settings. You will see that this details what types of settings are stored in the various profiles. So global profiles store these settings, microphone profiles store these settings, and transmit profiles store these settings here. I would encourage you to read these document pages to get up to speed on profiles if you don't already understand them. I'm going to look at the preferences pane here for dogparkSDR and just kind of review under the radio tab here the three different types of profiles here: global, transmit, and microphone. And I want to show you how I'm using profiles to operate my radio of late. So right now I'm tuned to 7.278. I'm using a global profile called SO2R default. And you'll notice here when I click here, I have a number of different profiles for 20, 40, and 80 meters. So I'm going to go to the 40 meter profile. That's going to load up the transmit and the microphone profiles, and I'm going to mute the audio here. And as you can see, my power is 100 watts, and I'm transmitting and receiving on antenna 1. I have a bandwidth of 2.7 kilohertz and other settings here as well. I'm going to move the VFO, which is currently at 7.278, over to somewhere around here, just to kind of show you the frequency moving. It's at 7.202. And I'm going to move over to 20 meter, the 20 meter profile, which switches over to 20 meters. And again, you'll see that I'm at 14.100 megahertz, and all of my parameters have followed along with that. I'm at a different power rating. Can play with those. When I come back to 40 meters, of course, it goes back to the last frequency that I was on, 7.202.6. I have a profile called Rattlesnake Net right here, and when I go to it, it's going to take me to 7.278. It's going to set my power to 100 watts, and it's going to set my antenna to 1 for my receive and transmit, all my parameters. The thing that you should realize about profiles, and specifically about dogparkSDR, is that any change you make to the radio at this point, whether you move the frequency or you change the volume or you change the power or anything, as soon as you switch over to another profile, then those settings are saved to the profile that you're switching from. And since this profile is dedicated to a specific net at a specific frequency, I don't want to change my VFO or change all of my settings while this profile is selected. So if I want to mess around on, let's say, 40 meters, I will go to the 40 meter profile and I will change my VFO here or change my power or do any number of different changes to my settings to experiment. That way, when I come back to the Rattlesnake net, everything is back to where it was, 7.278, and I don't have to mess around with the VFO. So that's one way to use profiles. You can actually set up a profile for a specific set of settings for your VFO, for your mode, and leave it at that. And then if you want to experiment or explore in a specific band, create a profile, say, with that band name, and that's where you actually do all of your scanning of that frequency.